Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video tutorial I will guide you through the process of creating this gingerbread house. It's perfect for kids. It has different scenes on each side. Kids can enjoy Christmas fireplace with stockings on them. Also there's a polar bear holding a gift from Santa. And let's not forget Christmas tree. To get started, you need to bake your dough. I'm using gingerbread dough. You can find the recipe down below in the description area. As you see, I roll it out pretty thin. It's fine to have it that thin. You don't have to have it super thick. It's pretty hard, so I wouldn't recommend eating this dough. I'm starting decorating first panel. Brush a thin layer of light blue icing into the circle. If there's excess, you can wipe it off. Make sure you don't oversaturate your cookie with water. I'm using water just to make the brush very lightly damp. And you need to do the same thing on the front door. Now we are ready to ice the cookie with royal icing. I used ivory food coloring to color this icing. When icing larger areas like this, I would recommend that you use 10-second flat consistency icing. For the planters, I used terracotta food coloring. Now we're going to sprinkle some sanding sugar on top of the trees. Now we are going to make little bows. You're gonna make total of 3 little bows. I'm only going to show you how to make one bow, and then you just have to repeat this on your house 2 more times. Now we're ready to add the center of the bow. Make sure you let the bows crust before you add the center. We need some Christmas lights, so I'm adding little Christmas lights here. To make the doors, start with red royal icing and flood the whole area with icing and then let it dry. To make the fireplace, we have to start with the firebox, and using sponging method you want to apply a thin layer of icing. You can also take piece of crumbled plastic wrap if you don't have a large paintbrush, and then we're gonna make the cement or grout areas. I'm not sure what to call it. You want to make sure that you use larger piping tip. If you're using piping tips, I would say number 3 or 4 would be good to make the grout or the cement sections, and then you have to let these crust before you fill them in. When you're filling, make sure you work with a couple of sections at a time, and then use a needle tool to spread the icing evenly around. Try to avoid getting any icing on the gray grout or cement. Once finished, this is how it's gonna look. I also wanted to show you something. There is a sinkhole. I ended up having a sinkhole, so I'm gonna fill it with a little bit of gray icing. This is normal, it happens. And then just smooth it out with a small brush. What I'm doing here, I'm making hooks for stockings. Now I wanted to make them a little fluffy, so I'm using again sponging method, or you can use a brush. Using a medium-sized leaf tip, pipe holly leaves. Now we gotta have some fire in the fireplace, right? So I'm starting with yellow, orange, and then we'll finish that off with some red. For the other side, I'm going to do very simple winter scene with white and blue sky. And I'm also going to make a little polar bear. I'm using royal icing transfer for this. As you see, I'm piping on wax paper. If you haven't done royal icing transfers, that's what's underneath. Now I'm using edible marker. You want to make sure that your bear is dry before you use edible markers. Once color from the edible marker dries completely, you can peel it off from the wax paper, add a little bit of icing onto your finished panel, sprinkle some sanding sugar for the snow. Now apply a little bit of icing on the back of your bear and just simply attach it. If there is some icing oozing out, take a small brush and scrape it off. Now we are doing the back panel. For the back panel, I'm doing snowflake scene with Christmas tree. You want to brush thin layer of icing on top of your cookie. Let it crust for 5 minutes. Make sure you don't let it dry. And then using needle tool or a toothpick, make little snowflakes. You want to wipe your tool into the paper towel. And now we're gonna airbrush this, creating blue gradient background. Make sure that the top portion is darker than the bottom. And then you can start with a tree. You can also use a simple template to pipe the tree, or you can make a super whimsical tree as well. And then while the green icing is still wet, take some snowflake sprinkles and add them to your tree. You have to let it dry. Now that we have all the parts ready, we can assemble it. You can use a cake board. I'm using a piece of parchment because I'm gonna be putting this on a cake platter, so I didn't want to have a cake board. I'll show you what I mean later. I'm using stiff royal icing as my glue. As you see, it's holding together pretty well. If there is any large blobs of icing oozing out, you can remove it. Once dry, we can put the roof on. I made my roof panels a little too big, so I'm going to cut them so they fit better. I'm actually using a cheese knife. It works really well, like a little saw. Here I have my, these are just some liners. I like to use these because when you put the support up, they don't slide. They stay in place. Alright, you may want to hold it for a few moments and then take your supports that you're using and leave it like this for several hours until dried. Now I'm gonna add the roof. I'm using medium size leaf tip and medium stiff royal icing. Now we're gonna fill this area. You wanna take your piping bag and use the opposite side of the piping tip, not the side that you used to make the leaves. You can learn how to make the royal icing holly leaves in my other video tutorial. And now once everything is dry, we can simply just peel this off and you'll have a whole house standing on its own like this. Now we're just gonna attach the door. If there is some icing oozing out, take a small brush and just scrape it off while wet, and then let it dry completely for several hours. And to display this gingerbread house, you can put it on a cake stand or cake platter, put little ornaments around it, or you could also add little granulated sugar for snow. I hope you like this video tutorial. Don't forget to give it thumbs up. Subscribe to Haniela'S on YouTube and you'll get all the video updates delivered to you via email.